Hello, everyone. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. I hope you can hear me okay. Today was the big day that everybody had been waiting for to find out whatever we were going to find out. And I got to watch this live with some of the justice warriors. And yeah, very, very interesting information that we found out today during the case, and then some information that came out afterwards. So I want to be able to share that with you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first play the Fox 59 news information. I'm going to try to make sure if we can see this. I'll have to share my screen here. First, make sure that we can possibly see it, but definitely we will hear it. And allow to share that. We're going to allow. I'm going to go weird on the screen again. And then I'm going to go here and let's go down. So I can show you the Fox 59 update. So let's listen to this and hopefully see it streaming well.
McQuaid is just stepped out of that hearing with Richard Allen, and if his probable cause will be unsealed. Russ, please tell us what you know.
Before Judge Fran Gall out of Allen County, the special judge assigned to hear this case. It lasted just a half hour. We left the courtroom just minutes ago. Richard Allen was brought into the courtroom. He was in a yellow jail jumpsuit. He was heavily trussed up with chains covered over a Kevlar jacket. He was brought into the courtroom. His family sat right in front of me in the courtroom. He did make eye contact with them. The prosecutor for Carroll County, Nicholas McClellan, stood and requested that the judge continue the sealed probable cause that was filed on October 28th during a behind closed doors initial hearing. McClellan argued in front of the judge that he used words chaos. He pointed to the courtroom, the abundance of the media there, and also the security there, and said this is the reason why we need to secure and keep this probable cause secret. He said two reasons. One, because we fear that witnesses in the case will be harassed by the media or be put in danger. But most significantly, he said, we believe Richard Allen is not the only person involved in this case. He continued to make his argument with the judge. Then it was the opportunity of the defense attorney, Bradley Rossi, who defends Richard Allen. And he was able to argue counter to that. He says, we have actually seen that unredacted probable cause. We don't think that there is absolutely anything in there that shows not only to the guilt of our client, but also he indicated that we have seen no evidence that there is any sort of danger to any member of the public. Nobody has come forward and said I've been harassed unfairly, danger to the public. And he also said, I see no indication that there's any other involvement in this case. The judge has determined, upon taking all that information in, that she has set a hearing for mid-February when this issue, not only the bail issue will be brought up because his defense attorneys yesterday filed that he be released on bail. The judge says she will hear arguments on February 17th about whether or not to release Richard Allen on bail. However, regarding whether or not to release the redacted or unredacted probable cause, the judge has received a redacted version from the prosecutor with names of witnesses blacked out. She says, I will take this under consideration. I will then give you a written advisement on my opinion of this at this time. We are not going to receive that probable cause today. The judge has instead received it from the prosecutor with names blacked out. She will take a look at that to determine if that is a reasonable way to undergo and keep the public fully informed as to the details of this case. One of the arguments that the defense made said, "We have seen nothing but press conferences for 5 years from investigators from the state police asking people to tune in, asking people to come forward with tips, and now that we've got charges against my client, against Richard Allen in this case, all of a sudden the prosecutor wants to shut down all public input into this investigation." And the hearing, as I said, lasted just a half hour. Richard Allen was taken out of the courtroom, and then the rest of us were released from the courtroom.
Russ, I wanted you to catch your breath for a minute, and I want to just make sure that I heard you correctly, because this is the one thing that people have been waiting to hear for a very long time. I understand you to say that one of the reasons the prosecutor wants this to be sealed is that they believe that Richard Allen is not the only person involved. Can you clarify that and then dig deeper a little bit in that?
It was a brief statement from the prosecutor because, frankly, he spent most of his time being concerned about the media coverage. That involved most of his argument. However, he did say that we believe Richard Allen is not the only person involved in this case. And that was one of the two justifications he used to say the investigation continues. We cannot jeopardize the continuing investigation by releasing the probable cause at this point in time with some of the information that would be revealed and therefore would hamper the investigation. Now, he issued 4 exhibits that he used to support his position that the probable cause remains sealed. 2 of them were from investigators who said, because of all the work we've done on this, we believe there is sensitive information here. We don't want this released to the public. Another one is a letter from Becky Patty. Of course, she is Libby German's grandmother, said she didn't want that information out. And also the attorney referenced an online petition, which he said the prosecutor said there was an online petition which had gathered 40,000 signatures, which showed there was widespread support for continuing the seal on this probable cause.
We're just watching some live video of the van that brought Richard Allen to the courthouse, just leaving the courthouse right now. How long do you expect in this case to look over that redacted probable cause and release it?
The judge took the redacted probable cause in hand during the briefing, during the hearing this morning. She said she was going to issue a written advisement on it. She said she was not entering it as an exhibit, so it would not become necessarily part of the public file, but rather taking it under advisement for her review privately. If this is Tuesday, conceivably, she could decide within 24 hours. We do have a holiday week this week. She may want to get this off her desk before the holiday, which then goes Thursday and Friday. And of course, there would be no court opportunities to take a look at that. She could do it that quickly. And it was interesting that the prosecutor came to court prepared with that instead of being directed by the judge to provide a redacted copy. He came to court with that redacted copy, giving everyone an idea that he had an idea of what would have been required to release that information and to get the judge's approval.
That's a couple more questions here. I wanted to go back over who was in the courtroom. Again, was any family member of Richard Allen? I think you briefly touched on that off the top, but I wanted to hear a little bit more specifics about that, specifically his daughter or his wife.
Well, there were 2 older women who were sitting right in front of me in the courtroom that were shown to special seats, secluded, set aside for them. I would say there were at least a couple dozen members of the victims' families. The rest of the courtroom was filled out basically by the media. It was also ringed by easily 10 to a dozen police officers, including state troopers and Carroll County Sheriff's deputies, and an attorney representing Indianapolis News Media was also on hand. He filed a brief yesterday indicating that it would be appropriate to release this information publicly. However, while his brief was accepted, he was not called upon to offer any argument or testimony before the judge.
We had a producer in our ear right there. I apologize, but did you say that they did not get to hear from the attorney from the other side on why it should be released?
The judge did not hear from the attorney representing the Indianapolis News Media.
Yeah.
Instead, there was a brief filed, but he did not was not offered an opportunity to testify or offer an argument, and we are hoping to interview attorney Dan Byron outside the courthouse here this meeting.
All right, Russ McQuaid live for us outside the Carroll County Courthouse, just stepping outside of the courtroom. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to show you something else before we talk. Obviously, there was a lot of information and stuff to cover, but there was something else filed today that I want to make sure everybody knows about. And let's go to it, maybe. There we are. So this was filed today. Make sure everybody can see it, okay? This was filed, and it was filed actually by the prosecutor. So this is the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen. And this is actually a motion for order prohibiting the parties, counsel, law enforcement officials, court personnel, coroner, and family members from disseminating information or release any extrajudicial statements by means of public communication. So this is a gag order that was filed today. Now Nicholas C. McLeland, I'm making it smaller when I need it bigger. Whoa, not that big. Carroll County prosecuting attorney, being first duly sworn upon this oath, and requests that the court to prohibit the parties, counsel, law enforcement officials, court personnel, coroner, and family members from disseminating information or releasing any extrajudicial statements by means of public communications. In support of said request, the state shows the following. So number one, that the state filed 2 counts of murder against the defendant on October 28th, 2022 in Carroll County Circuit Court. 2, the case has received extensive treatment in the local, national, and international news media. 3, that the media accounts concerning this case have contained an undue number of statements relating not only to the progress of the investigation, but conclusions of the investigation, some of which have been untrue. 4, is that reasonable to believe that the media will continue to cover this case of action extensively, and that the publicity will, Publicity will prejudice a fair trial, okay, and that the additional statements and media coverage in the news is likely to produce prejudice in the community, making it impossible to have a fair and impartial jury to ensure that all parties have a fair trial, and that an order is placed would ensure that the parties abide by Indiana rules of professional conduct, Rule 3 and 6. So that's page 1 of it. Let me go to page 2 and down. That now comes at the state of Indiana by Nicholas C. McLeland, Carroll County prosecuting attorney, and requests the court to prohibit the parties, counsel, law enforcement officials, court personnel, coroner, and family members from disseminating information or releasing any extrajudicial statements by media of public communication until further order of the court, and for all other just and proper relief in the premises. So then it's signed November 22nd, so it's filed today. Then it has certificate of service. The undersigned certifies that a copy of this foregoing instrument was served upon the defendant's attorney of record through personally delivery, ordinary mail with proper postage affixed, or by service through the e-filing system, and filed with the Carroll County Circuit Court this 22nd day of November. Again, signed by him. So, wow. We have some information as far as some things, and we look at what did we hear today. So one, I want to credit Fox 59 News for the video that we watched and showed that they did live right outside the court when it ended. And so we learned several different things today. So the bail hearing is going to be happening on February 17th, 2023. So that's going to decide if he gets bail, and, you know, if he's going to have a bond. His attorneys are stating, based on reading the probable cause affidavit, they just don't think that there's, enough evidence, and you're supposed to assume him innocent versus guilty. And so they want to have him do that. So I think for me, I mean, obviously they're working on trying to get him out, right? Let's see if we can get you bail out. We all know what the risk and stuff of that could be. You worry about somebody taking off or leaving or hurting themselves while they're out of jail. But, that does tell me that, I don't think that the attorneys are going to sit there and talk about a possible plea deal while they're waiting to check if they're going to possibly let him out on bond, right? I don't think he's going to sit there and try to yet make a deal with the prosecutor's office if he's trying to check if he can walk out the door for a while. That they said that he is not the only person involved. So we've all, lots of people have already, suspected that was true. But so the probable cause of them talking about 4 exhibits that they made about not releasing information. So if you heard, 2 of them were from the investigators, as far as exhibits of why it should not be released. So we're hearing that obviously it can release information about a possible another person involved. They also mentioned about witnesses, and, potential witnesses' names, which is interesting. So, and they normally would release the probable cause except for extraordinary circumstances. So the third exhibit, so 2 exhibits were from the prosecutors. So investigators don't want information possibly released, right? They don't want, the possible name of somebody else who's involved. They don't want it possibly, given a heads up. It may not say their name, but it gives them a heads up. They may have witnesses listed in there to protect them. Then you've got the third one, which is Becky Patty, who has a letter that she sent that she doesn't want information released out there either. And then they talk about the petition, and 40,000 people signed that petition that they believe the probable cause affidavit should stay sealed. And that's one that I'm sure everybody knows about that went around and people were signing. So the witnesses are interesting. We talked about what the risks are if he gets released. We hear that the defense attorneys think that there is not, that does not show that his guilt. We learned that there were 2 people there from his family. So then we have already a redacted, the prosecutor comes prepared and already has a copy of a redacted probable cause affidavit that they give over to the judge. So it's already ready to go. They know what they want redacted from that. So now the judge has that and received it. And we have to wait for her written advisement that would come back. Now, the news seemed to indicate that could be as possible as maybe within 24 hours if they try to just get that done prior to the holidays, right? She wants it off the thing. She doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So, there is a chance she could respond pretty quickly to that, and try to just get that done because the prosecutors came ready with it already redacted. Now, we also know, that the other attorney that was present was for Indianapolis News Media. They did not let that person testify. That was also who was there. As you know, there was things filed by lots of news media, national news media, local news media, that wanted this released because we do have that is normal public information, here in Indiana that's supposed to be released. And so the media wants to know what it says. So that's wow. I mean, you just kind of feel a little stunned after hearing everything. I definitely didn't expect that we'd go walking in there and suddenly the probable cause affidavit would be released that instant. I'm frustrated that they even think that they're going to get bond. I guess that's the normal thing. You hear them talk about if the judge would not let them have a bond hearing, then those are cases that people can turn around and say, my attorneys didn't represent me well, right? And I should have had this opportunity for bond, and then go back and say that this is a problem. So we don't want anything to possibly mess up this case at all. Obviously, we also see that the gag order by the prosecutor is because they don't want any other information possibly getting out here whatsoever. So, they're trying to put a gag order and stuff on that. I kind of wonder if that's in place because we have, media. We've had, I think it was Channel 8 or whatever, locally news, that they have somebody who is or that they say that the potential person that they're getting information from is through some form of law enforcement. So does this gag order put even more restriction on a person who may be leaking some type of information, right? Would they fall under some type of legal consequence now if they are found that they're leaking information? I would think if you're leaking information and you're maybe law enforcement, that would be an issue anyway, right? But does that do something even more to the person if they're out there leaking stuff to people? So, and here's my thought. If there was something with Keegan in there, this is speculation warning. If there was something, just stating that Keegan said something or was involved, like whatever the case may be, wouldn't he wouldn't be at risk in the public because he's already in jail. But if Keegan is talking and there's another person involved, then that person's going to have a heads up about that he is speaking, or any other witness that is in there. Because I know me and some justice warriors, our team out here, we're all watching the news live together when it happened. And we're just kind of said there, okay, it sounded like they said witnesses, plural. So do they have other people who have also turned in Richard? or knew something about Richard and came forward, which is interesting. And remember, Doug Carter didn't seem to be bothered if the probable cause affidavit would be released, because he seemed to be very confident. Hey, if you guys hear that, I don't think it's going to upset the case. I mean, we've seen him say that. So, but you do have to worry if there's another person involved and they reveal in the probable cause affidavit we know that Richard Allen with 2 other people, right, or 3 other people, whatever, 1 other person committed this crime, then you're giving that other person that heads up about the crime, about that they know of them, about that they're trying to get to them. They sat there and said that that is not the only person involved in the case, Kelp. So yeah, I mean, I have made aware of my theory, my speculation and stuff. You know, we don't know 100% of who the witnesses are that came forward. I think we can't ignore that, you know, the police go into one of the things that we were all talking about, which I see a group in here, my team, my Amy, my Mama Bear, my Kelt, my page was on today. When we're looking at that information and looking what happened, remember the probable cause affidavit that lets officers go into your home and then when you get arrested, right? So let's think about Keegan Klein. Even though that was horribly handled, we have the probable cause affidavit, which I cover in another video, that talks about the probable cause affidavit that got them into their house in March, early March. And it was for CSAM. It was not for anything else. So it was a tip that came into the FBI about somebody trying to get images through Snapchat and that. And they went to search that house. They search the house, they question him, they take him in. They don't have the evidence and stuff yet. They let him leave. They did all this stuff to him, got the devices. They had to wait for the forensics of digital proof, right? So they had to go out and go do that. And then on a very untimely way, and then we know that the police kind of think they're going to reevaluate what happened there, that it took 3 years later, unless they were watching and evaluating who was getting into, in my opinion, the Dropbox, into who's communicating with him about CSAM. They don't arrest them for 3 years after they finally go and review all of the forensic digital items that were shared, which was filed in 2020. And that's why he was arrested in August 19th of 2020, because it wasn't assigned to that attorney. So they waited and they had a delay, right? So a lot of CSAM people that you see like that, they are searched and then later they're arrested. So, you know, they go in, they try to find stuff and materials and things like that. So here we have the probable cause affidavit filed on Richard Allen. They go, we know they're searching his house. We know it was for at least 12 hours they were searching the house. And then they show up in the afternoon giving him an arrest warrant. So, you know, the probable cause affidavit is to believe to find something for a crime. And then if they do find something for the crime, then they can go and say, we need to arrest this person. We found something for a crime. And he was taken in immediately. So did they find something at that house? Did they find things over there? Because they arrested him immediately. So versus I just covered the review of Ron Logan. And remember, Ron Logan had a probable cause affidavit that states, and remember, a lot of it is in their opinion. They believe they're going to find this, they're going to believe to find this. And the Ron Logan, as I covered, it was very specific on based on the crime, what they thought they would find in Ron Logan's house. So, but Ron Logan never got arrested for that. He never got arrested for anything that came out of there. He did get arrested for violating and lying to the police and violating his probation for drunk driving. So, but when you hear, as we hear today, that stuff they are trying to cover and 2 of the exhibits to not open it is based on the investigators do not want information involved in released because he's not the only person involved. You don't get more than that. I know lots were assuming, lots were saying this and that. This is solid when these people, the news are in the court and they hear not the only person involved. And then you hear about, it could be witnesses' names. So, and we already know that Becky Patty was against having the probable cause affidavit come out if it hurts the case. So then we have, and again, this is extreme circumstances. If it can hurt the case, we don't want that information released, right? Nobody wants that. We don't want anything to screw up that if Richard Allen is the murderer, because he's presumed innocent, then we don't want something to screw up that case or to screw up the other person involved in the murder. So, what happens if that other person involved finds out how they found Richard Allen? Does it give them a heads up that now, they're going to find me, or they know I'm out there, or I'm worried they know me? Do you have to worry about him fleeing and taking off, that they can't find him? Do you have to worry about, a person who could sit there and commit suicide because they don't want to be arrested and then they don't want to tell what happened? And I think it's interesting that and I'm not surprised, the defense attorneys to say that there's not, they did not show guilt in the probable cause affidavit is pretty common. And so that's a normal thing that a defense attorneys would do. So, we just don't want that screwed up. And then that the 40,000 signatures about holding back that information on the probable cause. I think that's great that information is out there and was shared. His family was there. We're not sure. They're not quite sure of who was there. And then the seal, the gag order seal, to learn about that today too. So that was filed. It went to the court and they had to show that it went to the defendant. I will say it's just kind of, I don't know that there's anything surprising. Did we learn anything surprising in here? I guess from thoughts that I had about the case, I don't know that anything has come out really surprising. I did always assume somebody else was involved with the case. I was surprised they made him show up to court. There was heavy security, extreme security. That is all, really the local news and stuff talked about. I think I even have it. Let me see if I have it here. Let me, let me go because I need to share this first. Make sure I share it. So there's the picture of him coming into court. Let me pull that back. And obviously you can tell that he is, I'll show that again for you. You can see he is protected. They did talk about they had chains and stuff on him, and that they had, the news talked about that you could see something gray. It had orange jumpsuit on, but he had a gray and stuff underneath there. And then this coat was draping across because I'm sure it was a bulletproof vest. And that was the brief period of time that he was taken there into custody. There were police vehicles all surrounding it, security measures and that for people who went into the courthouse. So, yeah. I was really hoping, honestly, that one of the things that would happen is that she could read that probable cause affidavit. That she could read that probable cause affidavit and read it to his face. Right? Like, have to read it there. This is it. And he is short. He is shorter than I thought, for sure. Billy Goat Beard. I know. When you think about the height, I'm not a very tall person, but my goodness. So let's talk about this. Not the only person involved. One, not surprised. In my speculation, in my opinion, in my thought process, I will say at this point, I kind of have a bias, I believe, because I know people were back and forth whether they believe CSAM is involved with this case. And as you know from my videos, I have researched the large international child petty ring that was busted in Indiana not that long ago. And I have a video on that. And the reason I did that video is because, remember, in the police discussion with Keegan, right, they say you have opened in Indiana the largest child petty case that we've had. And that was scary because I'm like, well, wait a minute. Here was a huge case that did involve a large international child petty ring. It was started by a guy over in England. It went to multiple countries, and it was here. They found the servers for it here in Indiana. There were 4 people arrested here. There were people who they never caught them, that they never found out who the usernames of were some of these guys. And then you go and you look at, I'm not saying that the Dropbox alone is the main thing. I think the Dropbox is where, if, again, speculation, if Tony Klein was looking at anything Keegan was, he wouldn't have to drop it in a Dropbox, right? He had those images and stuff on all of his devices. So he wouldn't file it under for his father to go to a Dropbox and look at it, right? So the Dropbox, obviously, just like any other of the CSAMs that get busted, they save images and videos and stuff everywhere in trying to hide it. And it could have been the Dropbox itself, because it works like when a photographer gives you a Dropbox and you have a code to enter. And like, I'll give it like for children's photos as an example. You have to have your specific code, and then you're only allowed to see certain images because of that code. So that could be something that's easily shared. So if a man who at minimum, because he's innocent until proven guilty, is going to go and let's say on the best side of it, he's not going there to murder the girls. His plan was going to sexually assault them. So if he was, you can't take away that a guy like that is probably looking at images, right? He's probably looking at things as well. So, and then you have the common stuff of where, we know that Richard Allen's family was throughout those small communities in there that are very common, where some of the Klein's families and stuff were. Remember, Richard Allen is very close to actual Tony Klein's age rather than Keegan. Okay. Then we hear that Keegan shares, and this is based on information from the Murder Sheet podcast that we learned, that he shared he was in a vehicle. He was waiting in a vehicle. So then, again, this is all now speculation, but I'm sharing in my opinion when I think about this. Would Keegan Kline risk being there at the scene and wait in the car for this guy? Because why would he need him to wait there? Richard Allen lives close by. He can walk home. Richard Allen works close by. He can go over to work. His vehicle would not be seen as unusual if he's parked over at work with his vehicle to the side. Even though, he could be saying, hey, yeah, I work this day, have his car sitting in the parking lot to look like he's at work. If anybody tries to go over, check, the wife drives by, whatever. But, he goes to take a walk. Did he meet Keegan to get something? Did Keegan actually bring another person there? And that's who he was waiting for. So I just feel like there's, I feel like when Doug Carter is telling everybody, right? He said a long time ago, soon you'll learn why everything you'll know, and then you'll know why it's the way it is, right? That's what he said in the beginning, kind of thing. That is so me not saying his exact words, right? And then now he says about how many tentacles this has. Well, don't you think that all of these tentacles that could be is because they were chasing down CSAM? That it is another FBI operation that could have opened up, because it did open up a large Indiana case of what the police had shared with Keegan. Is it larger? If it is the largest, then it would have to be larger than what we had before. And that's scary. Yeah, Keegan's not going to do anything if it's not money. It definitely could be, did an opportunity get set up for him by that? Was he allowed to use the Anthony shots connection, or did somebody use the Anthony shots to help set up for him the meeting? Right? Hello, Miss Page. Miss Page is here too. Wow, our whole Justice Served Daily research gang is in here. I love these ladies to death. We do a lot of research and checking on stuff. So yeah, of course we'd all be here. This is like a huge day. Absolutely huge day. You know, I think anything that has to protect the case or witnesses should definitely be redacted. And I think that's why the prosecutor already came in and is like, he's not arguing the case that probable cause affidavit being released necessarily, is he? He already knows they're going to probably say, we're going to release something. And he's like, okay, that's fine. Here it is, redacted of what I don't want to go out to the public. So, you know, that's big. That's big. And 2 of those exhibits, remember, to keep it closed, came from investigators. They don't want it known in how they got there. Who, and remember the words of not the only person involved. Not the only person. We know that and can speculate that basically by the charges. So the charges is that they don't have to prove that he actually murdered the girls, but he was there to commit a crime that led to the murder of the girls. So we've heard from a lot of different attorneys lately and looking into some of this stuff, and they really say that case of that he was there to commit another crime is actually a little bit harder to go into because they have to prove that. You know, they have to prove it. So I don't take anything from that the defense attorneys are saying that there's nothing in there that shows our client is guilty. That's a norm. That's a norm. Let them file it. I hate that it's all the way till February 17th of 2023 for the bail hearing, but let them have it, because if something happens and they would have not had a bail hearing, we don't want a reason that he can say my attorneys did not operate on my behalf. You know, we just don't want that happening. So his family's there. I am curious of who would have been there. Right? Who would have been there? Now, the Fox 59 news reporter was like, you know, it looked like 2 older ladies. But, you know, who knows what he would describe. And that the gag order goes up. As long as it's taken to just not even go to trial on Keegan Klein, and a gag order goes up, could you imagine for us to wait a long period of time, like years, to wait for this to finally be done? So my theory is that I'm hopeful that maybe, wouldn't it be great if, you know, I was thinking when he first got arrested, that when they finally get attorneys, that the opportunity for the prosecutors to say, if they don't think he's actually the one who murdered them, then maybe the prosecutors can say, again, speculation, okay, look, we'll take the death penalty off for you if you give up who else was there, who was the other person involved. And then he would talk, right? But they can't do that. They're not going to. I don't think his attorneys are probably not going to even look at that until after the bail hearing happens. Yeah, I bet you, I would think maybe his mom would be there. You would expect his mom. Because it's your kid, right? It's just, I mean, every time we think we're going to take a huge step, right? One big step, we take like an inch, just an inch. I would think, and I hope, let me put it that way, I very much hope that because the prosecutors came ready with a redacted copy of the probable cause affidavit, that this judge would write the written advisement quickly and be able to go ahead and release that. So we know that that is like, just like the news had said, that can be a 24-hour period. I think, I'm not shocked if they do it a redacted, because then it kind of satisfies the media that they want something, but they protect all the information they want protected. Right? So they won't have to argue with the media with the charges of that, right? They'll take care of that lawsuit by releasing a probable cause affidavit, but redacted, heavily redacted. And if that's the case, they said in the news, the earliest we could possibly see this could be tomorrow, that she could release it. I don't know. It would be interesting if it tells a little bit of facts on how they got him. How did they get to him? Unless it would affect the case, right? Like if it says, we got word from blank, 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 blank. So then you know there's a word, right? It's a word thing. Or that they say something during the search warrant of his property, blank, 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 blank. So then you kind of go, okay, they did find, there's something they found at the search warrant, right? If that was in there. And there's witnesses who came forward. I don't know why you'd worry about protecting Keegan if he was the one who said something. Other than if it's a person, speculation, let's say, for example, maybe it's Tony Klein, right? Tony Klein is it, and then he finds out his son is talking. It's not really, I don't think, to protect Keegan inside prison as much as it is to prevent maybe a Tony Klein knowing that his son has talked and he told that the case is involving more than one person, and maybe that's what's information, right? What if it says, we received a tip from Keegan Klein during this interview, and he told us that this occurred because Richard Allen was meeting, example, speculation, Tony Klein, and I went out there, drove my dad, waited for him. Richard Allen walked over. They committed the crime, blah, blah, blah. So then you would block it out, right? You would block out what's being told. You'd figure out something. I mean, Keegan Klein, if he did talk, would break the alibi that Tony has for that day. So that opens up a lot. So do they worry about, I mean, I've been worried about that if it would be like Tony Klein or anybody, honestly, if there's another person there, do you think there's surveillance on them? Because anybody could take off as soon as they're like, holy crap, they're on to me. Keegan's in jail for this. I don't know if he's talking. Now Richard Allen's in jail for this. Whoever it could be, and everybody's opinions and thoughts of whoever that other person could be, that person could run. Or worse, what they worry about people that are fixing to get caught is that, if they hurt themselves. And if we lose somebody like that, we lose some more details. That Richard Allen has been on watch for that the whole time he's been in jail. I know that they said in the news, okay, this cracked me up. So, you got to have a little bit of humor to get through some of these cases. And because some of the stuff, as far as CSAM and true crime and kids getting hurt and missing stuff, you got to have a little bit of humor in it. But I found it funny that the news said today, because they did not have cameras in the courtroom, they have a sketch artist. I was like, oh my God. I'm concerned about the sketch artist. And how many sketches will be released from this sketch artist? Will there be a first set and a second set? I'm just saying. Yes, they should subpoena everybody. I mean, that's the other thing. We don't know if what family were interviewed or, anything like that for any of them, the Kleins and for the Allens and the work for like a regular CSAM case can take, most of the time on all the cases, like I also did people who have been busted for CSAM or producing CSAM since Keegan has been arrested. And I have that in there that's covering Richard Allen, who was arrested before him for CSAM, and then who would be arrested afterwards. In the CSAM case, it takes a lot of time for them to do the forensics of electronics, especially that these guys are vowed to keep as much secrecy of keeping, it's not just clicking on something and then they go in there. The Dropbox may have been much easier to find because I think Keegan could be a low-level person involved in that. However, if they create websites that are locked and you get a wrong URL address that it's off by a letter, and then they click on, and this is from another case, and then they click on this thing, and then after they get in there, then there's special stuff they have to enter in order to actually get into a created website. And these guys belong to more than one group because they're always worried when one group gets busted, they want to be in part of another group just in case. And if you go look at the international child petty ring that was here before in Indiana, busted in Indiana, and even some of the recent cases, you'll see when they first went to go bust the guys in their information and what they took. And they didn't arrest these people right away. And most of the time, they only arrest the people who are producing it. They try to get the people producing it that are endangering children, that are harming children, and then they save some of these kids. So I don't think that Keegan Klein is a high level, trust me, he's not the mastermind of the CSAM. I'm sure he's a low level of the CSAM. Of course, my dog wants to bark right now. Wow. He barked all morning, too. I don't know. What's everybody's thoughts? Pastel chalk. Oh my God. Yeah, I was just like, what? I mean, I know the sketch things used to be in there, but come on. Why? We don't need a sketch artist. Because you know what's going to happen? Everybody's going to grab the sketch photo of Richard Allen and say that it doesn't look like sketch 1 or 2. Right? Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Evil CJ, I'm glad to see you in here too. Evil CJ has a channel, and I have been over there. He has graciously let me participate in his show before and come up on panel. And it's a very chill show. And, you know, a guy with a lot of integrity and lets everybody kind of share their thoughts and is open to all of that, which is nice. So I appreciate him. You should need to go check him out. We'll have to, if one of my mods have his channel, we could drop his link if you guys want to check him out. It's usually in the evening after work. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Yeah, you know, I know in the old times they used to do the sketches in the courtroom, and that's kind of all the stuff you'd have. But yeah, Evil CJ, if you want to drop your link in here too, you're welcome in the chat. I will tell you, I know that anybody with this case, all these dates that are coming up, we are all going to be so on top of it, right? We've got the cases for Keegan Klein, right? That's supposed to be, at least every time they keep moving a pretrial and everything around, it was supposed to be January. And remember, what's interesting, now am I remembering this wrong? Help me, my group. Maybe I am remembering this wrong. I thought there was some type of pre-trial hearing for Richard Allen in January as well. I thought they almost overlapped each other. I don't have my book thing here to go through all my dates that I'm tracking for the case. But I just remember that being the case. And if that is the case, isn't that odd that the bond hearing would possibly happen after the January pretrial? We'll have to look in that. I'll let everybody know what we find out on that, because I do think that there was something set for Richard in January as well, which I thought was odd, because I was hoping that may lead to the fact that we would have a pretrial for Keegan. And you remember, they keep talking about that they're still in negotiation stuff, yet out of the 30 charges that Keegan was charged with, and let me remind everybody of this too, because I was frustrated. I heard this on another channel, and this wasn't really correct. The case that they have against Keegan Klein were only the 30 charges that they would prove. Not all images, and you can go back to the video I did about Keegan Klein, probable cause affidavit, and what they found forensically. Those are all one video, okay? Because you'll make note that in there it talks about certain images that it was undetermined the age of the person in the video. So if they could not determine the person was under age 18, then it was not made as a charge, right? So the other ones were over 100 images. It was 15 separate girls in Indiana, surrounding through Indiana, close by, not far, in the state that he was charged for CSAM for. Those were the ones on his devices. It broke down on each device, and I do that too, on each device, what they found on each device. And remember, the last phone that they got that would have been used during 2017 was the one that he didn't bring with him. He erased everything on there, right? And then turned it into the cops. So, and that's where, I feel like as they went deeper and deeper and dived in that maybe Yellow app could have been something that they found and hoped may have had information still left from that. Because we kind of all of a sudden, after all these years, that this year in April, hear about Yellow app, hear about people talking on Yellow app. If you had any communication, that was released April of this year. Indiana detectives left to go to France, where that was created by a one app company that only created Yellow app. When they had trouble with it, it turned into Yubu. If you don't know about that, I have a video about the dangers of social media, what goes through all of it, or I have a shorter video that is just about Yellow app and Yubu, and it tells you why that app is scary and what predators and how predators are using that app, right? So his case is only about CSAM, but he's supposedly still in negotiations with police. Bye, Mama Bear. All right, yes, February 17th, 2023 is 10 a.m. Eastern is the bail trial. So, Amy, wasn't there originally a January date? Or am I losing my mind? I swore he had a date near Keegan's at first. Thank you, Evil CJ. You're so nice. So we will keep an eye on this for you. Had to go live and share it. I know a lot of people, if you're at work or if you're running around trying to get ready for Thanksgiving. Okay. Thank you, Amy. I knew I wasn't going nuts. So yes, originally the pre-trial for him was set in January. So that's why, because I was going to say that doesn't make sense to keep the pre-trial date of January but not have a bail hearing till February. So basically, he just extended the time frame before his case will actually get started. but that gives his attorneys times to talk to him. So, well, I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming here. If we learn anything more, we'll let you know. Also remind you, we are giving away a subscription for 6 months to Discovery Plus, which includes the ID channel. All you have to do is subscribe. We have our first drawing that we did. And let me tell you how this works. So, you know, if your name is drawn, then you'll receive an email from me in order to get confirmation of, you and your email and where we're sending the, e-gift card. And so, you have to reply to that, and you would receive that from justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. And yeah, we want to show that we appreciate you. I appreciate you coming here. I know there's lots of people covering the case, but this case is important to me greatly. This case breaks my heart, and I know that my justice warriors and my team here of all of us have been following that case, and that's how we all met. That's kind of our story there. And we want to make sure that the word gets out there. Also remind you that down below has been the information for tips for the wrong case. Oh my goodness. Did I really do that? Well, that case is about Deborah Fulton, who was the original reason I got into true crime. I am so sorry. Yeah. So this is the tip line. I apologize. I didn't realize that. Because they are still taking tips and information. Remember, with another person out there, somebody may know something, or you may have had interaction with somebody, or maybe, who knows, maybe Richard Allen or whatever. Please give that tip. Please subscribe. Please hit that like button. I appreciate you. You can go anywhere. You can be anywhere. But I'm glad you decide to be part of our Justice Warriors. And we are here to make sure that justice is served daily. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day and happy Thanksgiving.